Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Javon Keys. The Economic Commission of Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, is forecasting a growth rate of 1.7% for the economies of Latin America and the Caribbean in 2019. The projection comes despite the fact that global economic uncertainties are expected to intensify. Sashana Small has more.
The structural weakening of international trade is just one of the looming uncertainties that the economies of Latin America and the Caribbean will have to contend with in the coming year. This, the Economic Commission of Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, says is expected to be aggravated by the trade tensions between the United States and China. In addition to this, ECLAC is predicting an increase in the volatility of international financial markets. And so for the economies of Latin America and the Caribbean, a less dynamic growth rate of 1.7% is expected. However, the report adds that the greatest risk to the region's economic performance in the coming year continues to be an abrupt deterioration in the financial conditions for emerging economies. And economies should not dismiss new episodes of deterioration in future financial conditions. It notes that the consequences for countries will depend on how exposed they are in terms of their external financial needs and profiles. In light of that, it recommends that public policies be strengthened as sources of growth to cope with the scenario of uncertainty at a global level, and that fiscal policy be bolstered in terms of revenue and spending. The report also points out that to stabilize and stimulate growth, public investment must be reoriented towards projects that have an impact on sustainable development, with emphasis on public-private partnerships. It should also focus on productive reconversion, new technologies, and green investment. In the meantime, ECLAC is warning that public debt profiles must be taken care of in light of the uncertainty that could increase their costs and levels. Currently, Jamaica and Barbados have the highest public debt in the Caribbean, with a debt-to-GDP ratios of 100.3% and 134% respectively. For BATV News, I'm Sashana Small.
The tourism sector is on track to achieving another record-breaking year. The estimates for arrivals during the Christmas period reflect a 17% increase in earnings and a 12% increase in arrivals compared to the similar period last year. Here's more. It's another record-breaking year for tourism, and the Christmas period did not disappoint stakeholders. The festive season saw a record number of arrivals and earnings being achieved. Senior strategist in the Ministry of Tourism, Delano Seabright, says both areas registered double-digit percentage increases.
We have done very well. We're still collating the statistics for Christmas Eve itself, but certainly between the 21st and the 24th, that's the Christmas weekend essentially. We saw a double-digit increase in the number of visitors to the island. We also saw a 17+% increase in earnings.
Some 34,000 guests arrived between December 21 and 24, resulting in gross earnings of $51.2 million, which is 17% above last year. Mr. Seabright says this performance is indicative of the strategies being put in place.
What it speaks to is the fact that the policies over the last several months and certainly the last 2 years have brought about an increase in airlift. It has brought about more rooms being open and other major developments. So we're seeing the effect of that. And we're also seeing the effect of Jamaica being a very strong destination in the minds of visitors coming into the island.
He is also expecting 2019 to set another record, with more flights scheduled to arrive.
For the coming year, we can see a further increase in arrivals. We should recall that 2017 was a very big year in terms of the number of arrivals. We had 4.3 million visitors to the island in total last year. This year, we're again going to make another record again this year. And certainly in the new year, with the new flights coming in from all over the United States by Spirit and other airlines, and increased airlift by other standard carriers like American Airlines and so on. And also with additional airlift coming out of Europe and Canada. And also, of course, our brand new flights will be coming in from Peru. Certainly in the middle of next year, we have new flights coming in from Peru 3 times per week by LATAM. We expect to see an increase in stopover visitors for sure.
The period also saw an influx of international celebrities. The likes of designer Ralph Lauren and his wife, rap mogul DJ Khaled, and artist Drake visited. Reports also surfaced that the airports had difficulty accommodating the number of private jets. For BATV News, I'm Javon Keys. Meanwhile, Mr. Seabright says despite the reports of sexual abuse plaguing the industry, visitor confidence is still very high.
Well, the news reports are certainly an issue of concern, and the ministry has a very clear statement on it. Of course, we're very saddened and we're very sympathetic to anybody who have experienced sexual assault, whether in Jamaica or anywhere in the world. Nonetheless, thankfully, we have a 42% repeat visitor rate, which shows that a lot of tourists are very comfortable, very confident in Jamaica as a destination, and they continue to visit us on a frequent basis, and that's why we have such a high repeat visitor rate. But nonetheless, we're looking into the matter. We know there have been some concerns, but it is not at the level of being a crisis. Certainly not now.
He says the ministry is confident that the security audit commissioned by Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett, which is being led by an overseas expert, will address the issue.
The number of incidents that have happened are no doubt. One is one too many, unless there were a couple reported cases, but this is out of the over 20 million tourists who have come to our island in the last 7 years, certainly. But nonetheless, we have initiated a security audit that's being executed by the Tourism Product Development Company in conjunction with a well-known international security expert in Dr. Peter Tarlow, who has worked with the FBI and the Canadian police and other major agencies, well-respected agencies, security agencies worldwide. And he will be a critical player in that security audit of our resorts and our tourism destinations on island.
In the meantime, the Tourism Enhancement Fund, TEF, has committed over $17.5 million to mobilize Jamaica's first walk-in street museum. The museum will be located on Duke Street as part of downtown Kingston's redevelopment plans. Dubbed the Duke Street Refurbishing Project, the walk-in street museum will include placement of street art depicting Duke Street's history along various locations on the roadway. These include sculptures, murals, low and high relief figures and storyboards. The work, which is expected to commence by the second quarter of 2019, will also include upgrading and paving of sidewalks in the area. The Kingston Restoration Company is managing the project, which is part of a public-private initiative to upgrade the target area, which falls between Port Royal Street and East Queen Street. Meanwhile, Director of Projects at TEF, Johan Rampier, says the walk-in museum is seen as a way to create an enduring and unique attraction for visitors, while serving as a vehicle to preserve an important part of Jamaica's history. And stay with us when we come back. We're a few days away from the plastic ban, but will the law be strong enough to enforce it? This and more after the break. Welcome back. Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Darrell Vaz, is warning the public that there will be teeth in the law come January 1 to enforce the plastic ban. Mr. Vaz says too often archaic, outdated legislation and laws that are totally inadequate in terms of the consequences through fines and imprisonment are used to enforce the law. He says the government is looking to strengthen aspects of the current legislation applicable to breaches of the ban on single-use plastics. He's reminding the public that fines of up to $1 million for breaches of stipulations under the Natural Resources Conservation Authority and Trade Acts will be imposed. Starting next Tuesday, the government will commence imposition of the ban on the importation, manufacture, distribution and use of specific categories of plastic packaging material. Banned items include single-use plastic bags, commonly called scandal bags, imported styrofoam, and plastic drinking straws. The ban will not apply to single-use plastic bags used in public health for public health or food safety standard for meat, flour, sugar, rice, and baked products such as bread. No more room for violence. Both Prime Minister Andrew Holness and Opposition Leader Dr. Peter Phillips are imploring Jamaicans to make this holiday season a crime-free one. Jamila Maitland has more.
The Prime Minister used his Christmas Day message to reminisce about a more peaceful and happier time in Jamaica's history. He argued that many Jamaicans should not have to live in fear, especially during the festive season.
Nowhere in this narrative is there any room for violence. Our children are safe, Returning residents have no fear. No guns are about. Peace and joy, kindness and happiness abound. This is the true, authentic Jamaican Christmas we can enjoy once more, where everyone is looking out for each other.
While acknowledging the ugly truth, he said the sad reality is that many communities are being impacted by violence.
In many parts of Jamaica, the nostalgic Christmas scene I have described is being unfolded. But sadly, in other areas, people are being impacted by violence. There are elderly people in need of our kindness, homeless people in need of food, children in need of something to put a smile on their faces.
Meanwhile, opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips also used his Christmas message to call for a more peaceful holiday season.
Each of us, as citizens and stakeholders in this great country, must take a stand. We must resist all efforts to sow division and bitterness. Even more, we should all make an effort to advance the cause of peace, justice, and healing in every area of our nation's life where we can have an impact.
Dr. Phillips raised concerns about young people not being adequately prepared to enter the world of work.
Let me make a special plea also for all of us to extend a hand of caring to our young Jamaicans, many of whom have been inadequately prepared for the world of work and the demands of responsible citizenship. Each one of us can make a pledge to show the love Christ brought into this world in practical ways. Each one can teach one. Each one can mentor one.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
With the new Road Traffic Act set to be enforced soon, the Ministry of Transport and Mining says it is planning to have a national conference for the public transport sector. The ministry says it will invite all stakeholders in the transport industry and encourage them to participate. Transport and Mining Minister Robert Montague says now is the time for dialogue to explore viable solutions for the public transport sector. Proposed points for discussion at the conference include the recently passed Road Traffic Act, retooling of the industry, licensing, insurance and banking rates, as well as consolidation of fees, discipline, road fatalities, shortness of drivers, uniforms and wrecking of vehicles, among other issues. Motorists will be paying less at the pumps tomorrow as all gas prices will go down. 87-octane gasoline will go down by $2.98 per litre to be sold for $119.10 per litre. 90-octane gasoline drops almost $3 per litre to be sold at $121.94. Meanwhile, automotive diesel oil decreases by $1.04 to be sold at $127.68 per litre. And ultra-low sulfur diesel will be $2.99 cheaper to be sold at $130.81 per litre. In the meantime, the selling price for kerosene is $2.99 less than last week, now going for $106.04 per litre. Propane LPG drops $1.33 per litre to be sold for $43.70, and butane will cost you $1.31 less, selling at $50.02 per litre. Sagicor Financial Corporation Limited, SFC, is seeking to assure the region that it will be business as usual for its customers in the Caribbean even after the insurance company sells all its shares to a Canadian-based firm. SFC announced late last month that it had entered into what it calls an arrangement agreement with Alinvest Acquisition II Corporation to acquire the shares in a US $536 million deal. Once the deal is complete, Sagicor will delist from the stock exchanges in Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago and London and list on the Toronto Stock Exchange. However, Sagicor Financial Corporation's president and CEO Doddridge Miller said in a statement, "While this is an important step for Sagicor, it has no impact on any of our operations either in the Caribbean or the United States." He stressed that the proposed agreement gives Sagicor the ability to explore new opportunities and solutions which will allow it to provide even greater value to customers. Mr. Miller said Sagicor will provide stakeholders with an explanatory statement sometime next February prior to a shareholders meeting to be convened by the end of March. The transaction is expected to close by the second quarter of 2019, subject to shareholder and regulatory approvals. And stay with us, regional and international stories are up next. Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. CEO of Fire One Fireworks, Andre Abraham, is calling on the Trinidad and Tobago government to impose stricter laws to promote a safe fireworks industry. TTT News' Janine Brown has more.
Every year, hundreds of customers turn out in their numbers on December 26th to take advantage of the Fire One Fireworks Boxing Day sale. It's all in anticipation of ringing in the new year with a bang and lighting up the night sky. CEO of Fire One Fireworks, Andre Abraham, says that the event is more than just a sale, as they try to embody the celebratory mood of the season.
As Fire One, our product allows us to help people to look up and to be positive and to focus on all the good things about Trinidad and Tobago.
The Fire One CEO tells TTT News the company is in full support of government's recent ban on scratch bombs.
The scratch bomb over the years has given the entire fireworks industry a bad reputation. We support the ban 1,000%. And even though we operate within the laws that are 100 years old, we have self-imposed the international best-in-class practice, the American standards for fireworks.
In fact, the CEO says they'd like to see stricter fines governing the sale of fireworks.
I believe that there must be consequence to your action. If you break the law, the fine must be so high that you have no other option but to obey the law. And that doesn't only apply for fireworks, but also for littering, drunk driving, breaking a red light. We believe that there must be consequence to bad behavior.
The company urges its consumers to be sensitive in their use of the product and advises to limit use between the hours of 6 p.m. New Year's Eve to 2 a.m. on New Year's Day. Mr. Abraham says it's in an effort to promote consideration for the elderly in society as well as pets and their owners, all of whom have concerns about the noisy nature of fireworks. Janine Brown, TTT News.
The turquoise lakes of Guatemala's Lake Atitlan draw tourists from around the globe. But residents of one lakeshore town, Santa Catarina Palopo, are hoping to draw more visitors through a special project. Al Jazeera's David Mercer reports from Santa Catarina Palopo.
Guatemala's Lake Atitlan is renowned for its beauty. Now one lakeside town is drawing on these surroundings to transform itself into a giant work of art. It all starts with a fresh coat of paint. Families choose colors and designs inspired by the traditional hand-woven clothing worn by local women. Then they help to paint their own homes.
The house is going to end up looking really nice. The result will be good, and it makes the landscape here look nicer. It's a big change from before, and I hope more neighbours paint their houses too.
Local women have led Pintando Santa Catarina since it launched 2 years ago. They help develop the color palettes and designs and administer the project. But coordinator Lydia Cumes says women have another key skill that's allowed the program to thrive.
I think that when women make decisions, they seek consensus with others. This really helped us during the start of the project, and it helps us keep the support of the community.
The weaving tradition is strong in Santa Catarina. The patterns and colors of textiles are inspired by nature. Maria Nimakachi says women express their imagination through weaving, and they are now able to share their talents on a different scale.
For me, it's special to see our designs on the walls of our town and to receive visitors who say it's beautiful and take photographs to remember it. It makes me happy to see our traditional embroidery seen this way.
Pintando Santa Catarina is attracting more tourists. For visitors who've been here before, the transformation is clear.
Last year there was not so many activities I thought, and it was really white, a bit sad, a bit more dirty even, in the streets and everything. And now it feels much more respected, the town.
Pintando Santa Catarina is the first project of its kind in Guatemala. Organizers say that once they complete the painting of the 850 buildings in this town, they plan to expand the project to the other towns around Lake Atitlan.
Recently, the project won an international design award, showing how art can combat poverty and empower a community. David Mercer, Al Jazeera, Santa Catarina, Palapó, Guatemala.
It has been a bleak festive season for many Zimbabweans this year, as the country struggles with food and fuel shortages. Even in the toughest times, sales rocketed in the days before Christmas, but this year businesses have not seen the usual seasonal rush. Al Jazeera's Haru Mutasa has more.
These teachers say they don't want to be paid in local bond notes, Zimbabwe's surrogate currency. The government insists the notes are equivalent to the US dollar. But on the black market, they are constantly losing value. That's why workers want their salaries in dollars, so they can at least afford the basics.
There's no festive season at the moment for the poor, the working class in Zimbabwe. It is going to be a festive season for the rich elite, the bourgeois class and the ruling elite. They are going to, of course, enjoy it, but for the ordinary peasant, the ordinary worker, there's nothing for them.
Prices of basic goods have more than tripled in just a few weeks. Some people say they are barely able to buy the essentials, never mind the luxuries.
The mood is very different this time. Last year, Robert Mugabe was forced to resign as president by the army. Many people really hoped his departure would usher in a new and more prosperous era.
Fuel, cash and medicines are in short supply. After decades of government mismanagement and alleged abuse of public funds, it seems the situation is getting even worse.
The economy is just reaching a point of explosion. We have issues which have been happening for the last 10 years. Trade deficits. We're importing more than what we're exporting. And to date, we have a cumulative trade deficit of $30 billion.
Other Zimbabweans say there is really nothing they can do about the current situation. Challenging the government is sometimes not an option. It can be too risky.
We cannot demonstrate, not demonstrate around here. If you demonstrate, the police will be around, chasing people around. At the end of the day, you die. So just look at your own means to survive. Feed your own family, that's all.
As anger and frustration grows over the economy, the general sentiment here is that it's not compliments, but complications of the season in Zimbabwe. Haru Mutasa, Al Jazeera, Harare.
On the new plan set out by the Environment Secretary Michael Gove, shoppers across England will have to pay 10 pence for a carrier bag at all stores. Under the measures aimed at curbing plastic consumption, the current 5 pence charge will be doubled and will apply at all shops, not just large retailers. More in this report.
The 5p charge on every plastic bag used in supermarkets has helped to curb our addiction. It's been so successful, the government wants to put the price up to 10 pence a bag and make all retailers charge.
One way or another, we just need to encourage people to, whenever they go out shopping, to think about having something in their back pocket, in their handbag, so that they don't use as much plastic as is used today.
We used 7.6 billion bags in 2014, the year before the 5p charge came in. By last year, that number had plummeted. Only 1.7 billion of the 5p bags were sold. But another 3.6 billion single-use plastic bags were still handed out by smaller shops. We are all now using far fewer of these single-use plastic bags. But in their place last year, we bought 1.2 billion of these so-called bags for life. They're much heavier and they use more plastic. Environmental campaigners would like to see a far bigger charge, anything up to £1 a bag, so that we think more carefully about reusing them. The Treasury's understood to be worried about the negative impact the new charge might have on high streets that are already struggling. But shoppers we spoke to today were broadly supportive.
I think there's too many disposable bags, you see them everywhere.
I'd be sweet about it. I mean, I keep mine at home, I do try and take them out, but yeah, it's good for the environment.
There's also a target to eliminate all single-use plastic from England's schools by 2022. Without these changes, scientists predict plastic in the sea will treble over the next decade. Juliet Bremner, ITV News.
And stay with us, Talking Stocks comes up next. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 57 stocks traded today, of which 20 advanced, 26 declined, and 11 traded firm. The main JC index declined by over 6,000 points to close at over 361,000 points. The junior index advanced by 12 points to close at over 3,189 points. Over 330 million units traded today, valued at more than $9.3 billion on the Jamaican dollar market, while on the US dollar market, more than 63,000 units traded, valued at almost 12,000 US dollars. JMMB Group ordinary shares with over 327 million units trading accounted for 98% of market volume. Carriers Limited with a little over 500,000 units trading was second, and Radio Jamaica with more than 300,000 units trading was third, making up 0.1% of market volume. The main advancers were Cygnus Credit Investments, US dollar ordinary shares, gaining 2 cents to close at 11 US cents, followed by Paramount Trading ordinary shares up 45 cents to close at $2.90, and Jamaica Teas up 59 cents to close at $4.49. The main decliners were JMMB Group ordinary shares down $4.56 to close at $28.26, followed by T-Tech ordinary shares down 70 cents to close at $4.59, and Consolidated Bakeries ordinary shares down 20 cents to close at $1.70. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar lost to the US dollar and British pound but gained on the Canadian dollar today. The US dollar ended the day selling for $128.74, gaining 30 cents on the Jamaican dollar. The Canadian dollar sold for $95.74, losing 44 cents to the Jamaican, and the British pound ended the day selling for $162.57, $2.08 more than what it sold on Monday. And that's the news. But before we go, a recap of our top story. The Economic Commission of Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, is forecasting a growth rate of 1.7% for the economies of Latin America and the Caribbean next year. Thanks for watching. For more content, please visit our website at batvja.com and like our Facebook page, that's Business Access TV. I'm Javon Keys. Pleasant viewing.